Welcome back to Voice of Valor Brazil edition.
Yeah.
We got returning guest, João.
Yeah,
Loved it so much, he decided to come back.
for sure.
And he's joined by Rafael, new guest.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Just to introduce myself, so I'm Rafael. I'm the head of the sports medicine department at MEO, and it's a pleasure to have you guys and talk about MEO and Valor Biomechanics. So let's get it on.
Yeah, let's hear a little bit more about MEO. Like, what does it stand for? What's your guys' vision?
Okay, so MEO, if you translate it, it actually stands for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. But if you put it together in a word, it becomes a possessive pronoun in Portuguese, which is mine. So it's like my sports center, my integrated health center.
That's a clever little.
Yeah. And actually, the mastermind behind it is Dr. Paulo, which you guys know. So he's our senior medical director. He's an orthopedic surgeon. And the idea is to bring an integrated health center for the patient. So one thing that we have here in Brazil, especially, is that we have ultra specialists. So the guy only looks at the finger. So the guy only looks at the heart. The guy only looks at the ankle. And we want to bring that experience together. And I think a parallel we can build is with Valor Biomechanics. So we were having the training yesterday, and we saw like if you put the sensors only on a segment, you only see that segment. So the idea of an integrated health center is not only see a segment, is see the whole person and use all the sensors. Or, for example, maybe you have all the sensors, but you're not using the sensors from the right suit. So it's like suit 1 and suit 2. You're not going to see the whole picture. Our idea with MEO is see the whole picture. So have sports medicine, have orthopedic surgeons, have dietitians, have physiotherapists, have athletic trainers, have all this evaluation and literally make it happen and bring health to the patient.
This is for the masses or just athletes to start?
So I think there's a whole spectrum of people. There's going to be the athletic department that of amateur and professional athletes. That's one spectrum of sports medicine, which we're trying to bring to the regular athlete. So we have experience in top tier clubs here in Brazil, and we want to bring that integrated vision. I think you've guys seen at the major clubs in Brazil, in the US. So we know that it works.
Yeah.
So you guys were talking on the previous episode about coaches and multidisciplinary discussions and decision making, and we want to bring that to the athlete here in Brazil. But the other spectrum of sports medicine is essentially the sedentary individual, the guy that doesn't do anything or has a chronic condition. And we've studied this for ages, and we know that sports and physical exercise, it literally is beneficial. So there are certain conditions that you have to be cautious, but you have to exercise. The thing that we have to get right is exercise intensity and exercise volume. So we can bring that to the athlete, but we can bring that to the general population. Our goal is to get everybody in there.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty nice idea, and we're psyched that it's gonna happen.
Well, I've got something for that, and this without getting too controversial or too crazy, but you talk. Obviously MEO is getting like a really great, idea and concept. But how do you like bring that to the masses when the masses see things like what went on with Neymar? I believe was it last year or the year before, where he had his, I believe it was ACL injury, and then he had his personal staff treat him at a level where it looked like he was in absolute agony, crying. So the public look at that sort of video and go, ooh, that could be the norm. I don't want any of that. Versus like you trying to break those barriers and say, well, that's not really normal. That's maybe like one of one. But people, like you said before, like you're fighting an uphill battle from a cultural standpoint. So how do you change those perceptions from what people see in social media, which is not always right, to what is actually meant to happen in reality?
Well, I think each treatment is unique. So we have to bring that to the patient, that we're by his side and we'll be there with him through the whole process, and we'll face these fears. And maybe like they see it on social media, maybe we can use social media to get that fear out of them and show like that there's a diverse type of a rehab process or something like that. So I think We can do that by social media. We can do that by being at sports events. We can do that at participating in these activities and showing the value of an integrated health center and how we can do it.
So putting yourself in let's say you were part of Neymar's staff in that situation, you have the platform now to sort of give your own opinion on if you were that person treating him in the ACL, what would you do in that scenario?
In which specific scenario?
In terms of treating it, from what everyone saw in the video to how you would rehab that scenario.
I think it's very hard to put an opinion not being there. Don't want to be categoric about it, but yeah, I think
Just be general then. Like,
yeah.
just say, hey, if he was my athlete, I would do it this way.
Yeah,
There's no right or wrong, even though there may be a wrong. But what would you do? How would you do it for him or the general public?
Well, first of all, I'm not a fan of exposing these types of moments on social media. So maybe I would approach him and say, okay, maybe if it's necessary that we do something that's uncomfortable, it's not necessary that we expose it in social media. But I would see him day by day, see his evolution, and do the decision making on a daily basis and how he's feeling with the process. So if there's an indication to do that treatment and the patient's feeling well despite the agony, I think it's a valid therapy or treatment. But I'm a real fan of shared decision making. So just show him what are the possibilities, what are the consequences, what we have to do, where we have to get, and maybe take a shared decision on that one.
Love to-
I think today's sports demands a lot of strength and the mechanical gesture, the sport-specific gesture. So that's a nice way to evolve in a rehab. Like lots of strength and lots of correction of the gesture. That's why biomechanics is so important to us.
Absolutely. We'll have to pull up the clip for anyone listening to this. But I guess bringing it back to the actual clinic, why in Brasília? Like, where is Brasília? Most Americans don't know what Brasília
I don't even know
is.
the capital. I was like, we're going to the capital. He's like, no, it's not. It's real. I was like, oh my God, here we go.
My friends thought I was making it up. It's like Brasília.
So Brasília is the equivalent of Washington, D.C. in the United States. We're a capital city and a capital state, which is basically where the government is. And it's a central part in Brazil. And why Brasília, I think, is we have this center position, so we can reach not only Brasília, but a very diverse spectrum of other cities in the region. And basically, Rio and São Paulo already have similar proposals to ours. And what's our objective is to set the standards and be a major reference here in Brasília for the center region of Brazil and the north of Brazil as well.
Be number one in Brasília, the number one in all of Brazil,
Yeah.
and even all of South America.
Yeah, I think that's the goal, and that's why we work.
Yeah, just like you guys said, people don't know Brasília. Even like away from Brazil, people outside Brazil, they don't know Brasília. And in sports, we are just crawling, start to walk, and we want to develop this culture and this clinic that set the standard here and compete with the best in the country. Like we have to develop the sports here in Brasília, and the exercise assessment and the sports medicine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually live in São Paulo now. I'm doing that transition back to Brasília. I did all my studies in sports medicine in São Paulo, had contact with the top tier clubs there. And my idea is to bring that experience here back to Brasília and provide what João said. It's a pleasure to be here with him as well. And make Brasília like a very good and a reference for the rest of the country as well.
We were surprised to learn that when Paulo picked us up at the airport on Tuesday morning, he was like, yeah, Brasília is basically only, 60 years old. He said there was nothing there before that. So I was like, wow, it's crazy, you know what I mean? So it makes sense that you try to, develop this city and make that a hub. So for a facility like Mayo out there, you mentioned before that social media can be sometimes not a good thing, but in the situation for Mayo, it can be a good thing. So how do you use that to promote the facility and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think if social media is crucial for the existence and the success of Mayo, and we're doing a pretty good job and showing the world and Brasília what we offer, this whole integrated health center experience and the differentials that we have, such as Valor Biomechanics by our side. So I think the last 2 days we've had an intensive social media exposure exactly on Instagram, especially WhatsApp. So these are the top apps here in Brazil. And yeah, I think now it's time to expose ourselves and show our
In the right way.
qualifications.
Don't expose yourselves in the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's up? Are you just sending all the videos out, or are there like stories?
Yes, basically stories, feed posts, and on our personal Instagram. Mateus is doing a great job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
You guys have some good video editing. I
Yeah,
had the
yeah.
Tokyo Drift.
yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, if you're not on Instagram, you don't exist, right? In nowadays, and I think especially because we don't have nothing similar to Mayo here in Brasília yet, it's too important for us to be on social media and to explain to people what we are trying to develop, what we're trying to sell here.
And a good thing that I think we're having excellent feedback, not only from you guys, like Mateus' friends from Rio and his patients from Rio are saying lots of good things about Mayo. My colleagues in São Paulo are really psyched. They're very enthusiastic about the project and the clinic. So I think social media is working, Instagram is working, and we're totally doing a good job.
Right now, is it a more premium sort of service or facility? I mean, we saw the gym you guys are in. It's like the equivalent of like Equinox Plus, boutique.
Actually, it's a good one.
Yeah, I think initially it is a premium standard of patient and healthcare system because the professionals we have are premium. So we got people coming all the way from São Paulo, from Rio, you guys coming from the United States. So that all has a cost of excellence, and that's what we will have to like.
Yeah, but I think comparing to Rio and São Paulo, we are not like expendable.
Expendable?
Yeah,
Expensive.
expensive. Oh my god, I just remember the expendables. No, nothing to do with Sylvester Stallone.
You're not
No,
expendable,
nothing to
but you're
do-
also not
sorry.
expensive.
Get in there and
We are
see
not
him.
as expensive, like thousands of reais.
Yeah.
I think that's not the idea. But yeah, it's a premium service because it's integrated and lots of professionals of different areas, and we want to see the person, the athlete, the patient as one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it becomes a little expensive.
Well, I'm talking about
I was going to say, is there anything that Mayo does that's like a world first that not anyone else in the world is doing, or are there things that you are building that will be like a world first?
I think it's hard to say world first because we all have inspirations around the world, but I think we want to be in the vanguard of stuff
Yeah.
essentially here in Brazil. So we have different projects such in sports medicine, in education, and in data collection and data science. So I think what we can do as innovative would be get those things together and really use that to promote science here in Brasília and Brazil.
So like, how do you be innovative at Mayo without the sake of being just innovative for the sake of it? Like, how do you innovate and just do in the right way?
smartly.
Yeah.
I think we have to be innovative, thinking that we're a health center. We want to think about clinical outcomes. So if we think about our patient, if we think about the clinical outcomes of our patient and how we can use data and how we can use technology to improve the clinical outcomes, that makes sense. So a discussion we were having, not only at Mayo but at each club that we actually participate, is that nowadays we have huge data. So it's like data, and we have to know how to interpret the data and to make it valid. And that's what we were discussing yesterday. About analyzing not only the absolute number, but how is that number generated and how that number impacts the patient and stuff.
Yeah, we are producing data all the time, but I think most people don't know how to use data.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's the difference. And for us, it's not only a money thing. Like, I want the technology to sell to my patient, to my client. Like, okay, you do this exam and it costs this much. Okay, but why?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason to be integrated, right? The person goes to a physician, the physician diagnoses something, and just prescribe something and some exams, and so the physical therapies can act, and occupational therapies we have also at the clinic can help. So it's more a thing of using technology to discover some problems and to help to solve these problems. So
Yeah.
it's not just, okay, do this exam for no reason, but because it's cool.
Yeah, that's one big difference I've seen being here is you guys want to be great to help people, be great for you guys all want to be excellent, right? It's not necessarily to make a lot of money.
Exactly.
Like a lot of the conversations we have in the States do revolve around money. So I can appreciate that.
And I think one thing that's me and João, we work with sports medicine, and I think that's one of the that's the beauty of sports medicine. And that is that we have the knowledge that we can integrate it the whole process. So we can discuss with the athletic trainer, we can discuss with the physiotherapist, we can discuss with the dietitian, and we have this capacity to make the patient's experience the best experience possible. So I think the beauty of sports medicine is exactly that, being able to be in the middle of the whole process.
Yeah, there is a whole team behind a team or behind an athlete, and this team has to be as integrated as I don't know, like music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has to be very
Synchronized.
synchronized. Yeah, that's the word, synchronized. So the athletes and the persons who are competing, who are playing something, they can be they can get some beneficial.
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, so talk more about the team at Mayo and give the listeners a bit of a rundown on like what the facilities are like and the technology that you use, other than obviously Valor Biomechanics, but like give us a rundown of the team behind the team.
So essentially, structural specifications. Basically, we have 2 floors. One floor is dedicated to the medical offices for especially the orthopedic surgeons, and the second floor is a whole gym, physio, sports medicine department, the lab that Mateus will run. That will have not only Valor Biomechanics, but isokinetic testing. We'll have the stress test, so cardiopulmonary stress test, so we can see the patient's capacity. We'll also have the evaluation of his foot imprint, so baropodometry.
That's cool.
So it's cool.
Is that like any different to like the Delos machine?
I think it's pretty similar.
Similar? Okay.
Yeah. So we'll know how to orientate and maybe a specific shoe for that person or
That's
something
cool.
like
That's really
that.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and with Valor, we can identify some problem, some biomechanic problem, and maybe it's associated with a foot problem. So with the baropodometry, we can assess that and like treat that in a manner that maybe prescribing some time of shoe, we can get better.
and I think it's very interesting that you talked about Valor. And I think we can bring to you like how we will use Valor Biomechanics and these other technologies to the benefit of the patient. So essentially, I like to use in my evaluations the SMART strategy. I don't know if you guys heard of it, but essentially you want to set an objective for the patient that's specific, that's measurable, attainable, it's realistic, and it's time-based. So if you think about Valor Biomechanics, I think it influences especially the two first. So we can see a specific segment, we can see a specific biomechanic pattern, and it's totally measurable. We can see the evolution of it. And the last three, it's up to us physicians. We have to see something that's really attainable, it has to be realistic, and it has to be time-based, because you can't get someone to change something if you don't have these parameters. So it's very easy to say like, oh, I need to be healthy. So what is health? So what is that realistic? So I think Valor Biomechanics can help us in this evaluation process. And yeah.
If you can't measure something, it's hard to change it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, for us as a company, I think our goal is to also support the practitioners with the last three, like the actionable, like what are the top 5 things I can do to improve my score. It'd have to be realistic, so we have to take in the context, possibly data from other systems or subjective stuff from the practitioners. And then, I mean, the moonshot would be giving a timetable someday.
Yeah, but so what are some of like the influences for you guys personally, and then for MEO, like, you know, what are the countries that you view in Brazil as like the world leaders in sports medicine orthopedics?
I think the US is obviously a reference for us, but we look at the UK as well. Australia,
Yes.
it is.
He was fishing for that one.
Yes, Australia, like the biggest
ACLs in Australia. Yeah.
the biggest reference in sports medicine, like textbook wise, is Bruckner's and Kahn's sports medicine program, and Bruckner is from Australia, so he's a huge reference for us. Here in Brazil, obviously, I really like the guys in São Paulo.
Yeah.
So I cannot help mention Guilherme Gilda, which is like my mentor there. He's and other guys at the University of São Paulo. So these guys are people that I look up to and want to be close around and maybe have the opportunity to discuss cases and make it happen.
Joel?
Yeah, I think Rafael said it all. Like we often look to the US, Australia, and some European countries. And they were there first. They invest more, and they have more structure to deal with sports and professional athletes and amateur athletes. And here in Brazil, we have some examples, right? We have the soccer that is our strongest sport and the one who receive the most of the resources, the most of the money right now. So they are ahead of other sports, I think, in this kind of technology, it's kind of development. So we have many examples here of the elite teams of the Brazilian soccer. They're implementing this kind of technology, this kind of science. And yeah, for sure, it's something we look to.
Yeah. It's like, it's funny because we've been talking this episode and the last episode about like advances in technology and science, but, you know, arguably we still have a lot that we don't know about the body and how to, you know, fix or mitigate injuries and whatnot. So research, you've spoken about, both of you, as being an area of massive interest, particularly with our software. So talk to us about like what are the areas of interest research that, you know, you guys want to delve into.
Well, I think a great challenge we have in sports medicine is, like, if you compare it to other areas of medicine, is we have few like randomized clinical trials comparing stuff. We have a few strong evidence of certain therapeutic strategies we use. So I think my objective is to produce content and produce science that will actually be good and be strong so we can bring it to the athlete. But thinking specifically, I think in the biomechanics, I really like to study muscle injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So to see the whole kinetic chain, see a pattern of movement that would predispose certain muscle injuries would be a huge area of
Any
interest.
particular area, like upper or lower extremity?
All
of it.
I work a
all
lot with
connected.
soccer, so hamstring is like top one for me.
Yeah.
But I think the whole body, like if you work at a top tier athletic department, you'll see that muscle injuries is top one in not having that athlete available. So I think that would be one side of it, and the other side is the huge surgical injuries that like ACL tear and other surgical conditions, because that's a long time away from sport.
Mhm.
And you see the guy for like 9, 10, 12 months with you, and you're like, oh, I need to do something for this guy so it won't happen again, because
For sure. And I wasn't involved. It happened before my time, but like, Evan can speak to the fact that we got very fortunate to be able to work with professional soccer player in the US and the MLS. Utilized our software to help or assist with his rehab. So like that's a pretty cool use case. But yeah, it's one of those areas of research, and also like it's ever changing, right? The sports medicine landscape's ever changing. So what are some of your areas that you're really interested and focused on?
Oh, okay. I really like performance,
Mhm.
and I think I would love to study some aspects that influence in performance, like strength, speed, and this kind of training, right? And biomechanics is totally connected to it. Like I was saying, we're getting to this point that the body is achieving almost its maximal, right?
Yeah.
Its limit. So the mechanical gesture, the sports gesture, I think it makes a huge difference between two athletes. Like running, endurance running, like marathon, they have very similar times and like seconds of difference. And we're talking about 2 hour run,
Hmm.
right? And all of them very fit, and their VO2 max is too high. And what's the real difference between them, right? Maybe the mechanical gesture, maybe how they step, how their feet work when they're running. And I think that's make a huge difference. So I would love to study this area.
Yeah.
How to get that extra 1%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
What,
And-
what's
and-
I was gonna say, like, what's the next frontier? Because you mentioned like the body's reaching its limit. 15 years ago, people were like, the cognitive aspect is the next frontier. I think we've pretty much, well, we're still, scratching the surface there, but people are doing a lot of that, meditation, skill acquisition, or the Newell's model of constraints and action perception coupling. So, but for you guys in your world, what's the next frontier?
I think probably the next frontier is basically what João was saying. Like maybe does our body have a limit? So can we get better? Can we get more powerful? Is it like physically possible? I don't think we have that answer yet, because maybe we're not reducing like times and enhancing performance as we would expect, or as technology advances. So our times are not getting that better. But I think maybe we have to define what is our limitation right now.
And how we can overreach them. Like if you look for Usain Bolt record, a world record,
Yeah.
like 12 years and still there,
Exactly.
right? And some Phelps records too, they're still there. So how do we get there again? How do we get better? And course, with no drugs.
No PEDs.
Yeah, no
That would be a
PED.
fun Olympic.
Yeah,
What's
Of
the
course,
games called?
I don't know, the steroid
Enhanced
Yeah,
games.
enhanced games. Yeah,
but
the non-enhanced games record.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would be nice to know how we get there, and maybe it's this minimal thing, like this minimal gesture, the centimeter, the millimeter, that makes the difference, right, between two athletes. Like in a pool or in a court, in a track, 0.01 second, and you're not a golden medalist, right?
Right.
So it's a very minimal difference.
Right. This kind of goes back to the good versus great athlete. Is it like, do you think with technology and optimizing these things, you can kind of make a great athlete, or is it all just genetic?
No, I think you can make a great athlete, and I would say that the difference between a good and great athlete is like a tripod. Basically, discipline, consistency, and the pursuit for excellence. So
tripod.
I heard tripod and I was like, oh, just Valor?
so
The Holy Trinity.
So you have to be Trinity.
What was that again? You said.
So discipline, consistency, and excellence.
Mhm.
So I think these are three things that are essential that will make a good athlete, because you can be consistent, but you can be mediocre.
Mhm.
So you have to be consistently pursuing excellence,
Yeah.
and of course that needs discipline. You have to be disciplined, not only in sports but in life. So in all the other aspects, like family, friends, and your behavioral aspect. So I think it's pretty much like that.
Yeah, we have a phrase in Portuguese that doesn't make sense in English, because our word for work is with T. It's trabalho.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's with T. And we say that the only place where the success becomes first, then work, then trabalho, is in dictionary. Right? So for us, what I said before in the first episode, and what Rafael is talking about right now, you have to read this. You have to dream about it. You have to look for it. Look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
So,
guys are applying the same principles to MEO as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. I think we're at our time, but
Okay.
where could our listeners find you guys? Sounds like you guys have some really good social media.
So MEO can be found at Instagram at it will be easier for you guys to post it, but at
Yeah.
medicina.meo. So it's medicine in Portuguese .meo, MEO. My name is Rafael Gobato. So I have an Instagram, personal Instagram, and João has a professional Instagram.
Yeah, it's very difficult because my Instagram is João, and how do I explain João?
We'll link it.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I have this professional Instagram, and I talk about some hot topics there, as well as Rafael, and you can post the mail.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people can understand a little what we're doing there, and where do we want to get.
Love it. Yeah. Follow these guys' journey. It's going to be awesome. Hope to do another one of these when you come to Austin.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Sure.
Thank you for having us. It was a great conversation and pleasure to be here.
Thank you guys.
guys.
Thank you.